So a lot of witches are quite against Christianity, and there's obviously been this whole thing in the past where a lot of women would say they've got past lives where they were burnt at the stake for being a witch, and it was done by Christians and stuff. And I just noticed quite an issue, whether it's with Christianity or with religion in general. And some people will even say, oh, Christianity's been stolen from paganism and stuff. And I personally believe that all the religions all are of the one anyway. I just see the unity in them all. So I don't say, oh, this person's stolen this idea from that person, because to me it's the same truth being taught again and again and again. It's just been taught or expressed in a slightly different light, which is why they look different, but really it's the same truth. And so anyway, issue with Christianity, when the witches were being burnt for being into natural practices and stuff, the issue was never Christianity, and it was never God, and it was never Jesus. And you even see it today, with the pharmaceutical industry today, they banned natural remedies, and only things that were made out of proper petroleum-based drugs that the Rothschild family have approved or made or got money in is allowed to be prescribed. So you basically can't legally offer any natural remedies anymore. And so again, you would see that as being a green witch when you are connected to the earth and using herbs as medicine and stuff. That's what a green nature witch would do. And again, they've been silenced, and not quite as bad as obviously being burnt at the stake, but that wasn't Christians that have silenced them. That is basically, I would say Satanists or dark beings, not of the light, that have silenced them. And again, with race wars, with gender wars, with everything that causes separation, it is never the person's religion, race, sex, or anything that is the enemy. The real enemy is the ego, which is the devil. And obviously devil's a Christian word, but there is an entity and a being, a dark being, a fallen angel, who has basically had rule over this plane for a long time recently. Not anymore. But basically he is Saturn's lower self, and it's basically the ego, and this is what lives within every single human being unless you become enlightened and overcome your ego. And every single story points to how to overcome your ego. It's amazing, really. George and the dragon, slaying the dragon is slaying his beast-like self, which is the ego. What else is there? Kalimar, cutting people's heads off. It's cutting off the head of your lower self to become your highest self. It's having an ego death. It's not a physical death, it's an ego death. Jesus Christ, when he died on the cross, that was him having an ego death at 33. He died and was reborn. Phoenix from the ashes is having an ego death and being reborn into your highest light, into your highest self. There's so many stories that talk about it. And so yes, the ego is the enemy, not Christians, not God, not Christ, anything. It's the ego, and our egos are basically our lower self. It's our emotional self, our traumas, our emotions. And so when we act in emotions and in our lower nature, it's kind of seeing us as animals, really. You can humans are kind of in the middle. So you start as a mineral, you grow to be a plant, then you're an animal, then you're human, and then human is the last state on this plane before you can then ascend and become an angel. And this is the cycle of reincarnation. You build your way through lifetimes and lifetimes of each of these different levels until you can ascend and become an angel. So with humans being right in the middle, you can either act like an animal, which is lower than what you are, or you can act like an angel, which is higher than you are. So you can either choose to be beast-like or in your highest light. The ego is of the lower self. Imagine as well the chakras, yeah? Your heart chakra is the center. Your lower chakras are your animalistic states, and then your higher chakras are the higher planes and more angelic. And so if you act from the animal state, which is from lust, from fear, from like survival, and emotionally are attached to everything on this plane, what happens is our emotions cause many problems. They cause a internal stress on our body through all the chemicals and hormones we release from them. Energetically, they allow demons and negative energy in. It is our ego, it's our emotional attachments that Buddha says we need to let go of. And the ego is basically your emotions, your attachments come from your ego, and your attachments basically means like you have love-hate relationships with people. So if you live from your higher self, if you're enlightened, you just fill with love, highest love, unconditional love. Being of the ego and emotional attachment is conditional love. That means that you love someone whilst the conditions are right, but if they don't live up to your expectations, if they do something that you don't agree with, there's conditions, and if they don't do these things, then you won't love them anymore. And this is why people have this love-hate relationship, because it's conditional love. It's based on the conditions at the time and what they can offer you and how they can fulfill you and make you feel safe. You're living in that lower state of like fear, and this is all that there is and everything like that, and so it keeps you stuck here. If you ascend from your ego and live in the higher mind, in higher life, and you live from unconditional love, this is out of the emotional state, out of the beast-like state, out of the animalistic state, and instead you ascend from all of that. And rather than being emotionally attached to things and people and places that will keep you stuck down here, you let it all go, and you then hang with people because you choose to, because it's fun, rather than because like you need to, because you're emotionally attached to this person, and if they're not here you feel unworthy, or you know, all the things that your emotions and traumas bring up. So once you ascend out the ego and ascend into the higher planes and into higher mind within yourself and into unconditional love, your whole life changes. And like I said, it's never ever person's like Christianity or the person's religion or race or sex or whatever it is that's the enemy. It's the ego, it's the emotions, emotional attachments. Your emotional attachments can cause people to do some really bad things. Just think about any story you hear where anyone's been like anything bad's happened to them. Most of the time they were jealous, or they were mad about something, or they were in pain. And like, this is the stuff, this is the shadow, the baggage people say you need to let go of, because it keeps you down here, keeps you stuck, and it's no good for you or anyone or anything. It's just bad energy like staying here. And so you need to just let that shit go. Just let it go. And there's a really easy way to do it. Obviously doing all the shadow work, there's loads of spiritual practices which are very important for all sorts of reasons, and I'll do a different video about this, but there is a way of letting go of your ego, and it's what Jesus taught, it's what Buddha taught, it's what Krishna taught, it's what Muhammad taught, it's what all the ascended masters taught, and I found it in a book. So it's called The Way of Emotion by Chris T. And it tells you all about your emotions, all about how it's the ego, all about the spiritual side of like psychology, and then it also gives you guidance on how to actually do it and do the work, which I think is the most important, because it's fair enough telling someone, oh, you need to be a better person, you need to ascend out the ego, but it's like, how am I meant to do that? Like, just, yeah, fair enough telling me, but like, what am I meant to do with that information? How do I put it to practice? So what I like to try and do with my videos is teach you how to put it into practice. But the reason why I've just mentioned the book and not really gone into like everything in the book is because it's a big book and it's going to be a long video, and also like the author probably deserves some credit, you know, for his book. So yeah, I just thought I would share that anyway, and yeah, loads more videos to come. Love ya.